Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Soulfinder Demon's Match, written by Douglas Ernst, drawn by Timothy Lin, and colors by Brett R. Smith. I've wanted to review this comic book for a while. Now, straight up, I enjoyed this comic. I'll cut right to the chase. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the reasons that have very little to do with the story itself. It's the themes that interested me so much. The themes of religion and faith, and why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people, and just what it says about love and fear and about demons and about possession. And because I am a former Roman Catholic, I thought there were some interesting tidbits in here as well. But let's get into this. Let's get into this comic book. Soulfinder. Why is it called Soulfinder? Well, Soulfinder is essentially, that's a group of priests that form a particular sect of the Roman Catholic Church that basically find souls. They rescue souls. And the protagonist in this story is Father Patrick Redder, and he's a member of a diocese of the Roman Catholic faith, and he performs exorcisms. And there is another individual who is kind of like his mentor, Father Reginald Crane, who is a soul finder, who is a special type of priest that performs exorcisms. And soul finders were thought to have been disbanded back in 1972 at the Second Vatican Council or something like this. And in any event, there's a lot of rich history here that you can Google, and I don't so much want to get into that. Although I will thank Doug Ernst, because he did, the story did prompt me and inspire me to do a lot of Googling and to check things out and own up on some things I didn't know. And so it was interesting. So in preparing this review and it had nothing to do with me doing the review, just reading the story, I had a lot of questions because just on some of the things that he mentioned in here, I wasn't sure if he was making it up, some of the history, if it actually was true about the past of the Roman Catholic faith and exorcisms. And so I looked it up, and a lot of it is true, and a lot of it's kind of interesting. So you're going to enjoy that about it as well. And the great thing about it is that, this is a gorgeously put together package, man. He ships, thankfully I live in Canada. Doug Ernst, he's an American. He's on YouTube. I'll leave a link to his channel below this review. Great guy. He shipped internationally. He shipped very quickly. Immediately, I got it in no time. It was just great. Beautifully packaged. I mean, the art here is great. Timothy Lin does a great job. I'll be showing some of the art as I'm going along here in post-edit, and I'll put them up there. It's a good story in its own right. And he's a priest in a small Midwestern town in I think it's Stapleton, Maryland, population around 7,600. And there's a murder in town, and it appears there's a string of incidences in town where people seem to be dying, that they seem to be burning from the inside. And it's almost like they're combusting or they're burning up from the inside, which, because they're strange deaths, and because Father Redder has somewhat of a reputation, apparently, because he had, before the story even began, apparently he did a couple of exorcisms in the town, and he's got a little bit of I guess you could say that he's got a reputation, at least with certain people in the police department. They know that he's the guy. Whenever there's a strange death or something odd happen, they'll give him a call to get his opinion on something. And it's really cool that this is sort of a Roman Catholic superhero. And I love the fact that Doug Ernst is unapologetic about it. This is a story where, look, the good guy here is a Roman Catholic priest. And I love the fact that it's from a Catholic, Roman Catholic, that faith-based perspective. And the story is written from that perspective, and it's unapologetic about it. And you can have a superhero that's Roman Catholic, and that's okay. And at no point, there's no ideas here that are forced down your throat or anything like that. This is just a fun, good story that makes you think about what's important to you, makes you think about your faith, makes you think about maybe why good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. It makes you think, well, what's the nature of evil? If you do something wrong, is it because a demon's possessed you? Or is it maybe because you have free will and you just chose to be a jerk? At what point, what's the difference between lifestyle versus faith? There's a wonderful dichotomy of ideas here with respect to Father Redder's mother when she compares her son Patrick Redder, the priest, to his sister, Danny, because Danny has a little bit of a dysfunctional relationship with her brother, and so Patrick and Danny, they're brother and sister, but they don't necessarily get along. They love each other, but it's clear that maybe Danny doesn't. She thinks that Patrick doesn't visit their mom enough. Their mom is dying of ovarian cancer. And so there's that relationship. And Doug Ernst handles that very well. And I really like how he does the interplay between Danny and Patrick. Because, and something that their mother said was very, I think, revealing. Because they were arguing. And at one point their mother said, look, Patrick, you got to respect your sister's lifestyle just like she has to respect your faith. And I thought that was very interesting because clearly Danny, his sister, I never got the impression, I got the strong impression in the story that she'd never really had much of a faith, or she certainly wasn't a Roman Catholic. Or if she wasn't a practicing one like her brother, who obviously is not only a practicing Roman Catholic, but is in fact a priest who does exorcisms. So that interplay there and that juxtaposition of a lifestyle choice versus faith, there is a difference. And I like that because I think a lot of people confuse lifestyle choices with faith. Because remember that faith is belief in action. So all the stuff that you do in your life, just because you might have an active lifestyle, it doesn't mean you have faith. Is your action premised on a belief system? What's your belief system? And if you really have faith, what's really going to test that faith? Well, there's an interesting little tidbit at the end where Father Redder says, true faith reveals itself when everything else has been stripped away. And that's interesting. So if faith is belief in action and you're at your low point, you've just lost your job because of the pandemic going around. Maybe your grandfather just died. Maybe you're at a low point in a relationship. What's left? How do you put your beliefs in action? Do you even have beliefs? And interesting. Now, let's back up for a second. What does any of this have to do with an exorcism? What does any of this have to do with a demon? Well, that's just it. That's what I like about the story, is that this is a story about a demon. It's Blackfire, and he preys upon the doubts. He preys upon your fears, and he does through a matchbox with obsidian tips. And then they're demon matches, hence the frame, demons match, soul finder, demons match. When you flick the match, that's the opening that the demon Blackfire has to go into your memories and to feed on your doubts or your past traumas and your past fears. And what's extraordinary about that and powerful about that is we go back into the idea that love is all-encompassing. Love doesn't have an opposite. But yet most people think that fear is the opposite of love. And in, of course, many ways, you can say that it is. But if love is all-encompassing, it doesn't have an opposite, then where does fear come from if fear is not the opposite of love? Love can't have an opposite. Well, then fear must be a mental construct. We create the fear. Or does the demon enhance the fear? If fear is something that we construct through our own doubts and insecurities, then it's even easier for a demon to come in and to prey on it and reinforce our doubts. And of course, Blackfire here, look, if you're somebody who very strongly believes in the Roman Catholic faith, I no longer do so, but it doesn't matter how you approach this story. It doesn't matter what faith you embrace. Because fear can come in any form. And the demon, Blackfire, can be symbolic of anything. It can be the symbolic of insecurity. It can be symbolic of a friend who is a bad influence on you. The point is, the way to defeat the demon in the story is through free will, is to getting the person who's possessed to experience the living truth and to embrace to empower their free will, to push out the demon themselves. And even at the end, when Father Redder manages to help his own mother defeat the demon, you see that empowerment there. So I love the message here. I've gotten little tidbits here. I'm at the 10-minute mark here. I've talked a little bit. I haven't really talked too much about the true substance of the story itself, but because the themes themselves are what I really enjoyed about this story. And that's what I got out of it. You want to get the full story here, then you're gonna have to buy this, order it. It's well worth it. and I'll leave the link below where you can get it. Doug Ernst, he's got his own YouTube channel. This is a good read, and it makes you think. And it makes you think about right and wrong. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, whether it's a demon that possesses you, or it's whether you're making the wrong choices from your own freedom of choice, at the end of the day, you still should take some personal accountability for the mistakes that you make and for the errors that you make. It would be lovely to blame everything on a demon, but the reality is that sometimes you just got to own up and say you screwed up, right? But I digress a little bit. It's interesting that a lot of the things that the characters do wrong, or the characters that are possessed, they're genuinely possessed by black fire. And I guess one of the questions I have is, it's kind of weird that are all the bad people here are bad because of the demon. They're not bad because of their own right. They're not bad because of their own choices. So it's rather odd that the people that do the terrible things that end up dying, they do terrible things because they're possessed by the demon. They don't do the evil things because they're doing it by choice. They're doing it because they're possessed, which would suggest to me that they don't have free will. But yet it's their free will that needs to be sort of made manifest through the soul finders like Father Writer, who speak to them and try to inspire them to get free will. So it's almost like they're mentors. It's like when you can't, when you forget how powerful you are, when you forget a lesson, sometimes you need somebody to explain it to you again so that you get it, so you grasp it, so you remember how powerful and truly special you really are. Sometimes you need a kind of a bitch slap to wake you up that, everything's going to be all right. Don't abandon your faith. Sometimes you need somebody there to remind you that everything's going to be okay and that it's okay to doubt once in a while. Just don't embrace the darkness. That's what Father Writer does. Now, there's a moment in here that I wish we would have gotten. If there was extended scenes, deleted scenes, I would like to have an extended scene of one particular scene, and I'm going to mention that right now. And it's a scene where Reggie Crane is talking about when Father Writer performed an exorcism on a child. He said the child rejected your master out of his own free will, and that Writer was only presented to him the living truth. I would have liked to have seen specifically what Writer said to the boy, because it seems to me that if you're going to help somebody embrace their free will and take responsibility for their choices to expunge and expel a demon that is possessing them, what you say to that child, you need to know that child's history. You need to know what to say to that child to get that child back on the side of angels. I would like to have seen that conversation, because to me, that's where the true heroism lies for somebody that could perform an exorcism. It's not just the fact that you've been ordained and you're baptized and you're a priest and you've gone through the rites of the Catholic Church, etc., etc. It's your power of your voice, of your words, of what you're saying. It's not just your ability to quote scripture. It's your ability to be able to know the person you're trying to help and to say the right things to the person that you're trying to help. So I would have liked to have seen more of that. That would have been cool to see, because it's just teased. Speaking of which, all these teases here and all these themes, I'm really looking forward to future volumes. Doug Ernst has indicated on a number of his videos on YouTube. He's also nice enough, he's even let me know. He even showed me a couple teaser images of a volume 2 of Soul Finder that's going to be coming out, I understand, in the next year. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not going to spoil anything. I don't want to, other than to tell you that the setting and the environment that the next Soul Finder's in, it's not going to be, I understand it's not going to be in Steepleton, Maryland. There's going to be a different environment. There's going to be a different setting, and the action's really going to be ramped up. And I'm really curious to see where it goes. There's some misconceptions that I had. My preconceptions I had before I read this is that I thought it was going to be exactly like, I thought maybe it was going to be a little cliche like, the movie Exorcism, And don't get me wrong, there is that as well. I mean, he does expel demons from people here. But there's more story here. There's actually more interesting characters. I love his mother, who she might be his relationship with his mother. I couldn't help but relate to that in many ways. his mother is dying. He's got a dysfunctional relationship with his sister, but it's clear that they love each other, but they don't quite communicate well with each other. And that's so common, that you can have two very intelligent people that are very successful in their own right, but within the context of the family, that there's something about that you can learn a lot from a mentor, but sometimes when you get family together, there's always a misconnection. There can be miscommunications and things left unsaid that can come back to haunt you. It's those, I think it was Carl Jung who said, it's those small things that you fail to deal with in your life that come back to haunt you as fate. And no more is that more true than with your members of your family. If those things that are left unsaid, those little things, if you just let them go, they will come back to haunt you and you will regret it. And there's hints of that in the story in Ritter's relationship with his mother and his sister Danny. Really good stuff. At the end, the ending is very touching and emotional. I don't want to spoil it, but it caused me to reflect on Ritter's relationship with his sister. This is not necessarily a happy ending all around here. Ritter is someone that has a very extraordinarily unique job. I mean, let's face it, he does expel demons from people. And the most powerful demon of all, and that's Blackfire. So this is an interesting story. It's a unique kind of hero, and it's a different take than what you might expect in terms of your standard. Priest going and just doing an exorcism. No, he's kind of an action hero too, and he's got it. There's so much in his past that we don't know. We know he was a soldier, so we know he was a soldier in Iraq. Right off the bat, on the very first page, it was clear that he experienced a trauma. He's actually got one of his legs. He's missing one of his feet, I think. So he's someone that was injured in war. He was traumatized in war. Yet somehow through it all, Father Ritter manages to keep his faith. He's a genuinely good guy with a strong moral compass. How is that possible? How can someone go through war and see the worst that humanity has to offer, come back from that, overcome that trauma, or at least for the most part overcome that trauma, and not only embrace the better angels of his nature, but to help other people expel demons that might become part of their makeup, and to literally find their souls for them and help them find their souls. That is the question that's what's inspiring about Father Ritter. That's why I enjoy this comic. It's well worth a read. It will make you think, and that's okay for a comic book to do that once in a while, especially in this age of a pandemic with all this stuff going around. Sometimes we need to have a little bit of faith, because really at a time like this, hey, a little bit of faith, belief in action. We're all going to get through this pandemic. Everything's going to be okay. Let's all have a little bit of faith. And thank you, Doug Ernst, and Timothy Lynn, and Brett R. Smith for creating this wonderful joy of a read that scared me a little bit, terrified me a little bit, and at the end of the day put a smile on my face, because it made me reflect on my own journey from a disgruntled Roman Catholic to someone who is still struggling to find a faith of his own. It's good stuff. I would encourage you to read it. Guys, follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. Hit the subscribe button below. Check out Douglas Ernst's channel. He talks a lot about Soul Finder. You'll get a lot more information about this comic from him. And until next time, Comic Boom out.